My fiancée admitted to having an affair with her ex-partner as a result of my suspicions. I embarrassed her in the presence of all of our wedding visitors. Although no one desires to have their story published here, it is inevitable that we will eventually have to. From both the ops and the lurkers, there is a wealth of knowledge there. I am at op today because I have some very strong suspicions about my soon-to-be wife. I am in dire need of your assistance in determining whether I am overthinking things or not. I am a 32-year-old male who has been in a relationship with my fiancée, a 30-year-old female, for more than 8 years. When she was a senior in college, I encountered her while I was strolling through the campus with my younger brother, who was touring institutions that he was contemplating attending. She was donning a Hosier t-shirt, and I was compelled to engage in conversation with her due to my profound admiration for him as an artist. Initially, it was merely a comment, however. I had anticipated that she would continue to engage me, and she did. I recall my brother being irritated that he was compelled to remain to the side while I engaged in conversation with an unidentified female. However, in order to alleviate his anxiety, I obtained her telephone number and proceeded with the tour. For the sake of reference, I was 2 years out of college at the time, so I was not engaging in the act of poaching college females in a manner that was reminiscent of a stalker. In any case, we began to engage in frequent conversation from that point on, and we soon began dating because she embodied everything I had ever desired in a companion. I proposed to her on her birthday 1 year ago, as she has consistently expressed her willingness to combine joyful occasions. It goes without saying that she was delighted with it, as was I. That she consented to my proposal. Before you confront me, I only proposed to her after such a lengthy period of time, as she consistently expressed her desire to achieve financial stability before considering marriage. Well, she had a job at her own residence, so it truly seemed like the perfect moment after such a lengthy period. Currently, we are engaged in the process of coordinating a wedding, which is undoubtedly a significant undertaking. However, I believe that we share a great deal of common ground and have a remarkable wedding planner, so we are experiencing a remarkable degree of ease. The ceremony is scheduled to take place in approximately 5 weeks, and I am eagerly anticipating its conclusion due to the significant amount of tension that is associated with it. I will ensure that I cherish the day as much as possible when it finally arrives. In any case, that concludes the matter. About 2 weeks ago, I began to suspect that there was something amiss with my fiancée. It appeared that she was beginning to exhibit a shifty demeanor, and when I inquired about her well-being, such as "Are you feeling all right?" she would respond in an unusual manner, asking, "What is the reason for your concern that I am not feeling well as a result of my observation of a change in her demeanor?" Although not in an aggressive manner. I began to suspect that she was experiencing some form of wedding-related stress. However, she consistently denied that there was any issue. Nevertheless, I began to observe some peculiar conduct on her part. The majority of the time, she would hesitate or startle when I abruptly entered a room where she was engaged in an activity, as if she had been caught in the act. Additionally, I observed that she began to exercise extreme caution with her phone. It is possible that she believed it was not overly apparent, but she was unable to leave her phone in my vicinity for more than a minute at a time. I found it quite peculiar that it would consistently follow her. For instance, she may declare her intention to retrieve an item from the vehicle located downstairs, exit the premises immediately, and then return to retrieve her phone. Additionally, this pertains to tasks that require no more than 2 or 3 minutes. In all honesty, having known her for such an extended period, it was particularly peculiar to me. I believe that I developed a strong suspicion regarding the circumstances when I was able to observe a notification from a contact named Alex appear on her phone while she was lying beside me. In less than a second, she snatched it away, and after approximately 5 seconds, she turned to me. I understand that she attempted to present herself as if she was simply gazing at me out of the blue, but I believe she was attempting to determine whether I was able to observe what she did, and if I was interested in doing so. I suppose I am overthinking this, but I have always been logical and prefer to overthink and be incorrect rather than not think at all. Now, the issue is that I am aware of only one Alex who is associated with my fiancée, and that is the one she previously dated. Indeed, Alex is her former partner. Although it is possible that it was not the same individual, I was confident that it was him due to her prompt dismissal of the notification. It was impossible for any other Alex to elicit such a response from her. During our initial year of dating, she provided me with a comprehensive account of this individual. She had begun dating him at the age of 19, and they had parted ways a year prior to our meeting. She did not appear to harbor feelings of longing for him at that time, rather. She appeared to be completely over him. Nevertheless, she disclosed to me the extent of his character, which was that he was a complete jerk. Despite this, she was unable to distance herself from him. This was likely due to the fact that he was her initial genuine romantic partner. So although he was not physically abusive or anything of the sort, he was a complete jerk who would frequently neglect to return her calls, She reportedly suspected that he strayed frequently. However, she was too immature, inexperienced, and in love at the time to recognize the warning signs. In hindsight, she arrived at the conclusion. And it appeared that he was primarily present for the benefits that a young, hormonally active male discovers in a woman. I arrived at that conclusion independently and did not disclose it to her. Nevertheless, she maintained that she harbored a deep affection for him. However, she appeared to be able to move on without controversy. Therefore, it appears peculiar that she may be conversing with him without my knowledge, given everything I am aware of about this Alex individual. She has been vocal throughout our relationship, particularly when men approach her while she is at the grocery store or at work. However, it appears peculiar that she may be conversing with Alex on a regular basis at this time, and I am unaware of this. I was eager to learn more, but I harbored significant reservations regarding her ability to provide me with the truth. I would never be able to ascertain the truth if I were to ask her, as she could purify the evidence and tell a falsehood. This is why it would be more advantageous for me to undertake the task of independently determining the truth. I was aware that I would need to attempt to access her phone. However, I have not yet had the opportunity to do so. I have been informally requesting her phone to verify certain matters, citing the fact that my own phone is not in close proximity. However, it is not a customary behavior for me, and I am concerned that she may become dubious and question my motives. In addition, she observed me holding her phone at one point. I anticipated that she would remain absent for a few minutes, allowing me to verify the information I desired. However, she returned within 30 seconds. She did not express any sentiment regarding the matter. However, she did offer me an unusual expression. Since that time, it has been simpler to access Fort Knox than her phone. She has never done this before, but she now tucks it under her pillow while she sleeps. I have been preoccupied with excessive contemplation, and I have even entertained the notion of administering drugs to my fiancée in order to allow me to examine her phone. I assure you that it was merely a fleeting notion, and I never actually do that. However, I am extremely apprehensive about the possibility of being able to intercept her phone, as it is secured. Ultimately, I may be compelled to confront her and trust that she will disclose the truth. If I inform her that I possess sufficient knowledge, she may disclose the information. However, the sole certainty I possess is that she is conversing with an individual named Alex, and that she appears to have a secret to conceal from me. However, it is possible that this is all the information I require. I am interested in learning how I can conceivably approach this situation to elicit the truth from her, or if there are any strategies I can employ to gain access to her phone for a sufficient period of time to affirm or alleviate my concerns. If any of you reading this can assist me, please do so. Thank you, gentlemen. Revise. I have observed that there is a general agreement that the current state of affairs will render it impossible for me to conduct an investigation into her phone. I cannot wait for her to make a blunder of that magnitude, at least not unless she makes a significant error. Therefore, it appears that the most effective approach is for me to engage in conversation with her and rely on my intuition to determine whether she is being truthful. I am on the brink of marrying this individual. Therefore, if I suspect that she is not being truthful, I may decide that it would be more advantageous to simply retreat, despite the fact that I will never receive affirmation of the truth or the necessary closure. However, I believe that I could manage that. I believe so. In any case, I will inform you of my success. Sit down with her, express your apprehensions, and determine whether she can offer the assurance you require. If she is unwilling to engage in conversation, or if you are dissatisfied with her responses, you may have obtained all the information you require. Occasionally, the responses you are pursuing are not related to the contents of her phone, but rather to the overall health and transparency of your relationship. In the end, this discussion should assist you in determining whether you are in agreement regarding your future together, or if it may be necessary to reevaluate your position. Update 1. Well, that is quite impressive. I have an addendum to the narrative that I intended to share a week ago, a brief summary. I have a suspicion that my fiancée may have been infidelity, or, at the very least, conversing with a long-forgotten ex-partner without my knowledge. I determined that I would confront her about the matter, as she was not allowing me to examine her phone. The manner in which she was protecting it was quite unusual. I have been seriously contemplating the possibility of obtaining access to her phone since I composed my initial post. I am aware that I arrived at the conclusion that I would simply ask her, but I was under the impression that she would not disclose the truth. The issue was that it was beginning to significantly impact my mood, to the extent that she became aware of a problem. Given that she was the cause of the issue, I was not exactly a darling to her. I was not in a hole either, but it was evident that there was an issue, and I suppose she could infer that she was the cause. I must admit that I was taken aback when she approached me yesterday and informed me that she had a significant matter to discuss. Initially, I believed that she was attempting to ascertain the cause of my mood swings or to comprehend my illness. However, after she sat down beside me, A prolonged and uneasy silence ensued, and I realized that this was going to be significantly different. However, I continued to lack a comprehensive understanding of the situation. "My dear, I must discuss a matter that is of the utmost importance with you." Immediately upon hearing that, I could feel my pulse pounding in my chest, as I was aware that the information she had to share would not leave me feeling well. She inquired as to whether I remembered Alex, her former partner, and I responded that I did. I also mentioned that he was as serious a hole, wasn't he? I wanted to ensure that I was not inadvertently considering the incorrect individual. I mean, I could sense that there was a potential for damage control at this juncture, but it still felt as though she brought it up independently without any prior warning. Subsequently, I continued to eagerly anticipate her subsequent actions. Some time ago, we initiated communication. I believe it began when I shared the engagement photos. He arrived to extend his congratulations to me, and we subsequently began to reconnect. I proposed to her nearly a year ago, for the sake of clarity. Therefore, she was essentially stating that he had been conversing with her for nearly a year, and that she had never anticipated that she would be able to inform me until now. The most distressing aspect was that I intuitively sensed that she was only confessing because she must have believed that I was aware of something. After that, she remained silent for an extended period, and I simply remained with her in the silence. I refrained from uttering any words in order to spare her the bother. I was interested in learning her intended message. I reached a juncture where we agreed to meet in order to reconnect. The purpose of the meeting was solely to reconnect and discuss the events that had transpired in our lives over the past decade. He was aware that I was engaged, so I assumed that everything would be all right. At that juncture, I was aware that a significant revelation was imminent. In all honesty, as much as I had desired to isolate her until that moment, I came to the realization that the emotional anguish that accompanied the closure was not worth it. At this juncture, she began to weep a bit, and I recall experiencing an unusual sensation in my chest. I believe that her tears were more indicative of anxiety or panic than pity, as they only served to corroborate my most apprehensive worries. She was not required to provide any additional information, however. I desired her to do so due to my numerous inquiries. My initial inquiry was, what transpired one event led to another, and I ultimately engaged in sexual intercourse with him. Subsequently, she experienced a full-blown episode of weeping. I must admit that I felt a momentary pang of sympathy, however. It soon dissipated. I was observing her with her head immersed in her hands and was overcome with a profound sense of revulsion. At that time, I desired to satisfy my curiosity while simultaneously inducing her to endure the distress experienced at that moment. I began to ask her every query that was on my mind. What was the date of this? 3 weeks ago. How frequently has it transpired? At least once. I vow. Did you implement safeguards? A moment of contemplation followed by an affirmative response. Did you descend upon him? Additional weeping. Did you enjoy it amidst the tears? Have you completed the task? I did not receive a response. At this juncture, she was vocalizing her distress. She had also collapsed to the ground. I simply left her in that position and confined myself to the bedroom to be alone with my thoughts, as they were exceedingly noxious at that time. She delicately knocked on the door and continued to call. I could hear her repeatedly expressing her apologies in between the waterworks. However, I was unwilling to listen to her, so I requested that she depart. Fortunately, she did. However, you know what? I am present because I have determined my course of action. I have had the opportunity to contemplate the situation in depth, and despite my conviction that this marriage is terminated, I intend to create a spectacle. I must ensure that she recognizes that this could have been the most significant error of her existence. I desire for her to experience genuine humiliation and suffering, therefore I will proceed with the ceremony. Ensure that it appears to be the case. However, I would be unable to marry an individual of her caliber. Occasionally, a frigid shower is all that is required to cause an individual to disintegrate like a sandcastle. Opie, it was sufficient for you to withdraw and allow her to disclose her own vulnerabilities. The more you maintained your distance, the more her own actions and remorse did the heavy lifting. Individuals are their own worst adversaries, and their own decisions serve as the catalysts for their downfall. Regarding your intention to create a spectacle at the wedding, it is a daring move, however, I am prepared to support it. Update 2. Well, it has been completed, and it was truly remarkable. In all honesty, my ex-fiancée was the joy of my life, and I had always wished for the best for her before the affair with Alex. I was determined to ensure that she experienced growth, happiness, and fulfillment, and I would spare no effort to achieve this. Nevertheless, I am astounded by the ease with which I was able to direct all of my venom at her, without experiencing a single emotion. The sole requirement was that she deceive on me with her ex-partner and conceal the fact that she was conversing with him for an entire year. I am confident that she must have had multiple sexual encounters with him, however. She was attempting to mitigate the situation. In any case, I am becoming overly enthusiastic. When the wedding day arrived, I sat down with all of my suitors and informed them of the news. I informed them that the wedding would not result in a marriage, and I disclosed that my fiancée had been unfaithful to me with her former partner. It goes without saying that they were all extremely displeased. I did not hesitate during the bachelor celebration, as I was already aware that I had completed my duties. I was determined not to squander an evening that could have been filled with enjoyment for a woman who had already had her fill. Nevertheless, it was an exceptional evening. The fact that I was aware that it was not a genuine bachelor party, as I had ceased to regard it as a genuine wedding since my previous update, marred the experience. Anyway, the day arrived, and I was standing next to the minister when she and her father walked down the aisle. I must confess that she was quite stunning, and I regret that I was unable to witness her walk down the aisle as a decent woman, rather than a cheater. However, it is what it is. I made every effort to maintain a non-revealing expression when she arose. I believe that the groomsmen performed a more inadequate job than I did. I raised my hand and stated that I had an objection as soon as I observed the minister approaching the point where he addressed those with objections. The silence that ensued was as anticipated. The guests' murmurs were audible to me, but I was preoccupied with my fiancée, whose facial expression became as pallid as a phantom. I find it amusing to reflect on the situation. I immediately began discussing the fact that she had deceived on me with her ex-partner Alex, just a few weeks prior to that moment. I discussed how she had been concealing her affair with him for an extended period of time. I discussed her assertion that she had employed protection with him, however. I was skeptical. In the presence of the visitors, I clearly stated that I would submit myself to a test. I discussed my conviction that they had shared more than the single indiscretion she had disclosed. She was immobile in my presence for the duration of the entire event. The audience was in a frenzy, and I could see that her father was enraged, likely more so at me. I made it abundantly obvious to all that I was incapable of engaging in any relations with a prostitute, talking less for the remainder of my existence. Please do not hold me accountable for this. She is to be held accountable. I said that last thing before I made the decision to leave. I was approached by numerous individuals who attempted to impede my progress, however. I successfully ignored each and every one of them until I reached one of my groomsmen's vehicles. I truly felt elated at the conclusion of the event, and my phone began to sound incessantly at that moment. Additionally, I received numerous text messages, however. I refrained from responding to any of them. Although it was a significant amount of money that was squandered, she ultimately prevailed, and I was relieved that I was able to manage the wedding in my own manner. I received an overwhelming number of messages the following day from individuals who expressed their sympathies, offered their apologies on her behalf, encouraged me to attempt again, and even went so far as to disparage her. I was merely pleased that I was able to incite such a commotion and place her at the epicenter of it. I was exceedingly pleased to have humiliated her in the presence of nearly all of her loved ones. She has repeatedly attempted to contact me, yet I have failed to answer any of her calls. It is advantageous that I was aware from the outset that I would not return her. I recommend the same course of action to all of you. Cheating should never be forgiven. It is not worth the effort, regardless of the circumstances. Your words are wise. I could not be more in agreement with your perspective. Furthermore, you were able to make a day that was intended to be a celebration for joy into a platform for her public humiliation. It is as though you assisted her in erecting a mirror and demonstrating the consequences of her own decisions, all the while relishing the view from your newfound independence. The most delightful aspect is that the genuine her was revealed to all on that day. I trust that the next time you encounter a woman, she will be a kind individual and not a deceiver. I wish you the best of luck.